Hello and welcome to another English live stream. It's really good to be back with you again. If this is the first time you're watching, my name's Craig from the website mansioningles.com, where you can study English for free. And also we have a podcast at inglespodcast.com, which is also obviously free because podcasts are free. And you can listen every Sunday wherever you listen to your podcasts. And again, I'm very happy to welcome back Lynne from putitlikethis.com. Hi, Lynne.
Hello, Craig. Hello, everybody. Well, what can I say? I'm not free.
You are tonight.
I am tonight. I am tonight. This is a free class, but I'm actually putitlikethis.com is my company, and I'm actually a full-time online language teacher. So I do have to be paid, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But anyway, I specialize in tailor-made courses. So if you have a particular need in English, you have a very clear objective, what you want to achieve. It could be passing an exam, or it could be making a presentation, or it could be writing an article, for example, if you're a scientist or an academic. Then I'll create a course around that. So I tailor make all my courses. But if you go to my website, putitlikethis.com, you can find out more information about all the different types of courses that I create.
Fantastic. Well, if you're watching the replay, thank you for your time. We're here every Wednesday at 8 p.m. CEST, Central European Summertime. And if you're joining us live, we'll say hello to you in a second. But first, we'd like to tell you what we're going to be talking about today, which is one of my favorite subjects, conversation with strangers.
We're not strangers, but we'll pretend to be for certain parts of the show today. Yeah, certain parts of the class today, we'll pretend to be strangers.
We'll give you an idea of what it's like to talk to a stranger in English, and how to feel comfortable, and how to start conversations and continue conversations with people you don't know in English. So hello to... Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Also, I was just going to say the rationale for that is, of course, I mean, it's difficult to start conversations with strangers, even in your own language. But of course, when you're learning a new language, you need to speak as much as possible. And so a great way to learn a language is if you can go out of your comfort zone and start talking to people on the street. Lots of people go to England, for example, because they say, I really want to improve my English. So I'm going on holiday now to an English speaking country. You maybe go to America, or you go to London, or whatever. And then they come back and they say, oh, but we didn't really speak English.
Yeah.
And it is difficult. If you're in a big city, maybe you find people will engage with you in your own native language. But if you really want to take advantage of your time in the country, it's a good idea to make conversations with strangers, because then you don't have to pay online teachers like me to do conversation classes.
And you don't have to join conversation classes with me. So
exactly. And you can just go out there and you can practice your English for free with all those strangers, and they're not being paid to talk to you.
Lynne and I were talking before we went live about this, and we both agreed that people in London, where I'm from and Lynne has visited, they're not very friendly. It's difficult to speak to people in the streets, strangers, and start conversations in London. It's easier in the north of England, especially in Ireland. Irish people are very friendly with strangers, and of course in Spain. So that really is our first question to you, if you're watching. Do you find it easy to chat to strangers? Do you, Lynne?
Well, maybe you guys, while we're talking, you can put your answers in the chat file. Tell us if you find it easy to chat to strangers. Well, Craig, what do you think?
I think you do. I think it's easy.
Of course I do.
I think you do.
This is I think this is probably my top skill, is talking to strangers. My family would say she never shuts up. And I think they're right. I never shut up. I'm a real chatterbox. And I love talking to strangers, much to the embarrassment of my daughters, because they say, can you stop it? Will you stop having conversations with people?
Can you give us an
In
idea of
restaurants?
the things you say, how you start conversations here in
Well,
Spain? How do you?
it's I think it's because I'm really interested in people, right? So I think first of all, that's it. If you find it easier to talk to strangers if you are naturally interested in people, and I
Mhm.
am. So, for example, on Saturday, I was in my car at a red light. And somebody pulled up at a red light on a beautiful motorbike. And I looked at the motorbike out of the window and I thought, God, that's a lovely motorbike. And I want to share that with the person. Obviously, we were in the car, so I couldn't have a conversation, but I started going, oh, I really love your motorbike. In English. And the guy on the motorbike looked around and then he realized, and then he started to engage with me. He's going, yeah, it's really nice, isn't it? I really like it.
So that
And
is
so,
one way of starting a conversation with a stranger, is to pay a compliment, to say something
exactly.
nice about somebody's
Yeah, yeah,
jewelry,
yeah.
somebody's clothes, or somebody's motorbike. It's a great way
Exactly. Something
to break the ice.
that you like. Or if you see somebody doing something interesting and you think, wow, it's interesting, just to share your thought with them and say, wow, that is so good what you're doing there. So I think lots of people, we often see people and we think things, but I think part of the art of chatting to strangers is just to express what you're thinking, if it's
Exactly.
nice, of course.
I I agree. Hello, Gemma. Thank you for joining. Yes, I am well, and I think Lynn's well too. I hope you're
Oh,
doing
very
okay,
well.
Gemma.
Thank you. Yeah, Emma, I hope you're well too. Then
Katia,
we've got
hello.
Katia from Costa Rica, Esteban from Guatemala. Hi,
Hi.
Esteban.
Maria
Maria
Dolores
Dolores
from
from
Mexico.
Mexico. Great.
Paloma.
Paloma from Spain. Andrea, I think is from Spain. Andrea, yeah. And Christine is definitely from Spain. Hi, Christina
Hi,
again. Nice to
Christine.
see you. And
And
yeah,
Nancy.
and oh, is Nancy there too? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I see her. Yeah,
And
great.
Andreas says, I love to speak with people. It doesn't matter if they are strangers, or
Me
it
too,
doesn't
pal.
matter whether
Andrea.
they are strangers. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I like it too. I do, but I'm quite shy with strangers. If I don't know the person, it's quite difficult for me. I'm a bit different to Lynn. I don't usually initiate or start conversations, but I'm very happy to speak to people.
Yeah, because you're very conversational but it's true, you're a little bit shyer, aren't you? So if there was a
Yeah,
stranger in the room, I remember because Craig and I used to work together. So we did used to see each other, didn't we, in our place of work?
yeah.
And if there, for example, was somebody strange in the room, I naturally go and introduce myself. But I suppose you wouldn't have. But when people speak to you, then you engage really well with them very
Well, I
quickly,
would
don't
in that
you?
situation, if we
Would
were in
you?
like a teacher's room and there was a new
Mm-hmm.
teacher who just started, I know how awkward and how uncomfortable it is to
Comfortable
be
it
a
is,
new
yeah.
teacher in a school where everybody knows each other. So I
Yeah.
would make a point of introducing myself, smiling,
Mm-hmm.
and saying hello, I'm blah blah blah, just to make the person feel comfortable. But usually, I don't feel comfortable starting conversations.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we have
Now
another
we've got a
question.
few, hang on, we've got a few responses to Craig. I think Nancy says, can you see that? She says it's a challenge for her to speak in English with others, but you do like it. Well, that's good. You just keep
Keep
going. Uh-huh.
practicing, keep going,
Keep
Nancy, and it
practicing.
will become easier and easier with time.
Uh-huh. Definitely.
The
Definitely.
place where I live, it's difficult to find a native English speaker, and I'm a little shy. Yeah, I understand that, Katia. I'm quite shy as well. And
Yeah.
for other people who have recently joined us, Audrey, Silvana, Lydia from Argentina, how easy it is where you are to start a conversation with a stranger where you live, even in your language. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
in Argentina, is it easy to speak to people? In Mexico, in Guatemala, how easy? In Venezuela, Audrey,
Mm-hmm.
how easy is it to begin a conversation in the street, in a shop, when you're out and about
Mm-hmm.
in public? because that's what we're going to try and help you with today, how to do that in English. And we'll
Uh-huh.
talk a little about intonation as well.
Uh-huh. I don't know where Katia's from, Katia. You said the place you live, it's difficult to
Costa
find an
Rica.
English name. Costa
Costa Rica.
Rica. Oh,
There
really?
are lots of people maybe in the part of Costa Rica, but I think in Katia there are lots of Americans in Costa Rica
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought there would
hiding
be lots of
hiding from
Americans.
paying tax. Is that right? That's what I hear. That's what I hear. There's lots of Americans keeping away from the tax man in Costa
Yeah,
Rica.
so maybe Katia thinks they're Spanish, but or Costa Rican, not Spanish, but maybe you think they're Spanish speakers, but actually they're closet Americans and Brits. Who
Also,
knows?
lots of tourists in Costa Rica because I've never been, but I've heard it's a
Yes,
beautiful,
it's
beautiful country and very
very
popular
popular,
with
isn't it?
tourists because of the
Uh-huh.
wildlife. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Uh-huh.
Christine says breaking the ice can be difficult when you're a shy person. Yes.
Hmm.
And most importantly, when you try to have a talk with somebody in another language. I think that's very important. Yeah.
Yes, it's double the problems, but hopefully today we're going to show you some tips, and hopefully it will help you get over that double difficulty. But it's true that you have to have a lot of courage to talk to strangers. And but I think, why do you think that we're afraid to talk to strangers? Do you think we're afraid of rejection?
Yes. We're
Yeah.
afraid of rejection. We're afraid of what people might think of us. And
Uh-huh.
especially in a second language, we're
Mm.
afraid that we might make a mistake. We're afraid of ridicule. We're afraid of embarrassing ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But almost always, when we close our eyes and we jump and we start a conversation, it's almost always a positive experience.
Yeah, I think so too. And
Almost
and for
always.
the once or twice where you have a negative experience, you just forget it. I mean, that's the good thing. They're strangers, so it doesn't matter. I
Yeah.
almost think I have less fear amongst strangers than I do amongst people that I know really well. Like, for example, to start up conversations and things when you're, for example, in a work environment and you've got all your colleagues and you have a certain, I don't know, I'm more inhibited around people that I really know than if I'm amongst strangers
Interest.
completely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good
Mm-hmm.
point. Well, before we look at some examples of how you can break the ice and start a conversation, what we're really talking about, I think, when you begin a conversation is small talk,
Mm-hmm.
talking about subjects that are not controversial and just breaking the ice. Why do we make small talk? What are the reasons behind it?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Lynn?
Oh,
Why do
you're
we?
asking me. I was hoping
Well,
they would start typing.
I'm thinking
I'm thinking too.
why do we do it? Why do
Mm-hmm.
we make small talk? Because even if we know someone,
Uh-huh.
when we get together, usually the conversation begins with small talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
How
I
was your
think it's
journey? What's the weather
uh
like? How
yeah.
are you? Very, very superficial things.
Yeah. But I think it's part of it's, I mean, I don't know, but when you read books like have you read Sapiens, by Yuval Noah? And
I know it, so I
you
haven't
know
read it
it's
yet.
Sapiens. Well, when you read like some history accounts and they talk about the way human beings cooperate with each other, and that's what actually forms societies. And I think we need small talk because in order to cooperate with each other, we need to trust one another. And until we actually exchange in a conversation, that's part of building up trust with each other. And then when we have that trust, then we will help each other.
Hmm.
But if we don't have the relationship, the rapport built up, then we're less willing, then we see each other more as enemies, I think. So I think when we start making small talk, it's sort of like it's kind of like a peace offering. Like if you think of people in tribes, like
Giving a
maybe in,
present.
yeah,
Yeah.
when tribes like thousands of years ago used to meet each other, and if it's to try to show that your intentions are good. So please trust me, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not
That,
I'm not a
no,
sociologist.
that makes a lot of sense. Gemma says that she doesn't mind talking to strangers, although it depends on the moment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on how I feel. Sometimes I feel more open and more
Mm.
enthusiastic about talking to people, and
Mm-hmm.
some days I just want to be by myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Audrey says it's a good idea to learn about everything related to another country. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
agree.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Exchanging cultural norms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know Argentinians are very, very friendly. I have had many really good Argentinian friends. So wonderful sense of humor and very easy to speak to
Mm-hmm.
Argentinians. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
Paloma says I'm fond, maybe.
Or a fan of?
I'm a fan of. Yeah,
Maybe it's just
I'm
a
a fan
typo.
of
Mm-hmm.
English meetings in bars, and the first time we're a stranger. Yeah, that's the kind of thing we're going to look at now, Paloma, because when you are in a bar, for example,
Mm-hmm.
how do you begin a conversation with someone you don't know? And also, how important is intonation when you're starting a conversation? So we've got 4 phrases that we've prepared. And how did we say we were going to do this, Lynn? I can't remember.
So basically, we've just picked, because what we haven't mentioned so far is that probably the icebreakers, the way to start a conversation, probably you've know these because they're very similar in most languages. So maybe you can just flash them up a little bit first. Can you project them?
All 4 of them?
The 4 phrases just very quickly.
Yeah,
So one is like, I think we've met before, haven't we?
that's a tag
Yeah.
question.
That's a tag question. And the other one is, for example, nice day, isn't it? Okay,
Another
so to
tag
comment
question.
on the weather. Then there is a direct question. Do you come here often? And another question, for example, excuse me, do you mind if I join you? All
Which
right.
is good in a restaurant or a bar, for example.
Or in one of those conversation bars, I think that Paloma was mentioning
Yeah,
about, where she goes
yeah.
to practice her English.
Language
Yeah.
exchange.
And you kind of sit it with different people. So they're sort of like 4 typical openers to conversations. But maybe I think one of the difficulties is that you maybe know how to create the question, but maybe you've had the experience that you try it, and then for some reason the conversation doesn't flow. And you think, what have I done wrong?
When
Or
you say
have I
flow, you mean it doesn't feel comfortable, it doesn't
it
go
doesn't
well.
feel comfortable. And I think that is because with small talk, it's not just a question of the content of your conversation, because as Craig said before, when we talk about small talk, we're actually not talking about anything. It's not rocket
Substantial.
science. It's nothing
Yeah.
substantial. It's just
We're not
silly.
dividing the atom here.
No, it's
We're not
just silly
we're not
little
creating
things.
world peace.
Exactly. It's nothing sort of very deep. But actually, what is going on at the beginning of a conversation are many, many other things. So one part is definitely to do with intonation, right? And so we're going to look at the intonation in a moment, of the differences of intonation. Another aspect is your body language, which is also quite important. And there are other aspects as well. It's about how do you respond? Because the initial question is okay, but you've got to keep the conversation flowing after that. And I think when you start learning a foreign language, many people focus on the initial question, and then they go away and they try it and they have a few bad experiences. And then they think, I don't like English and I don't like doing small talk in English. So the way that we had planned, Craig, I think, is to go through those different sort of elements of a conversation. And then you can maybe tell us what you think. And you can also see if you see what we're trying to talk about. Okay?
But let me ask you this question before we begin. Can you please type in the chat how you would respond to this if somebody asked you this question? If I said to you, I think we've met before, haven't we? How would you, can you type in a response? How would you respond to that? Either if you recognize me or you don't recognize me, depending. How would you continue that opening line?
Yeah.
Be
What would you
interested to know what you
respond to
think.
it? Now, while you're writing there, we're going to talk about intonation. Okay. So there are a few different ways you can say that. You can say, I think we've met before, haven't we? You could also say, I think we've met before, haven't we? And another way is to say, I think we've met before, haven't we? Now, they are three different delivery ways that you're changing your intonation. Now, I always need my elastic band to show this, right? Right. So the first way, when I said, I think we've met before, haven't we? Now, you probably notice that with intonation, your voice is going up and your voice is going down, right? So every language, you have moments in your statement where your voice goes up and your voice goes down. If you've ever recorded yourself on the computer, sometimes you see like a line that's going up and down. Okay. There you are, like that. That's a from editing, isn't it? From from your podcast editing. Waveform, that's what it's called, right? Now, one of the things, especially for Spanish speakers, is that Spanish generally, they have intonation, but the range between the highs and the lows is maybe like this. But the English language has a much higher range to start with, right? So both languages use highs and lows, but English has a much broader range, right? Now, if you say, I think we've met before, haven't we? When I'm saying that, I'm using quite a narrow range.
It's very flat. It sounds very flat.
I think we've met before, haven't we? Yeah. And if I say, I think we've met before, haven't we? Then it's, I think we've met before, haven't we? Right? So it's going much higher. Now, which one do you think is more interesting, Craig? When I say, I think we've met before, haven't we?
You sound more interested in me with the second one. When the intonation is rising and falling and your voice is going up and down, the person listening thinks you're more interested.
Exactly. Right.
And the question is more interesting.
And that is the first signal that you're sending with your icebreaker, with your opening icebreaker. So it's very important that I know that you're thinking in English and you're trying to think, oh, I've got to say, I think, and then I want to use the question tag, haven't we? I know that in your brains as non-native speakers, maybe you're concentrating on the words that you're going to say. But what we're trying to say to remember as well to sound interested. And to sound interested, you have to make your voice go higher and lower. Okay. Now, in Spanish, the narrower range of intonation expresses interest. But in English, the narrow range of intonation expresses boredom or not being interested.
Yeah, disinterested.
Disinterested. So if you approach an English person and you say, I think we've met before, haven't we? Then the person is not going to feel particularly interested in engaging with you.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So we can maybe demonstrate the two, Craig, and you can respond naturally to me. So imagine Craig and I are in a bar and I go up to Craig, the modern woman that I am, and I say, I think we've met before, haven't we?
Maybe. I don't know.
Did I see you somewhere? Did I see you at a conference?
Possibly. Do you go to conferences often?
I'm not sure.
There's not much interest in that conversation.
There's not much interest in that conversation. No. Right. And possibly after the first one, that if you're unlucky, Craig was being polite, that he was still engaging with me. But if you're unlucky, somebody might just say, don't think so. And then that's the end of the conversation after two little things.
Yeah.
So let's demonstrate the second one and you'll see how the conversation naturally flows. I think we've met before, haven't we?
Your face looks very familiar. Yeah. Do you were you at the conference in Madrid last month?
Oh, in Madrid.
A teaching
You
conference.
mean the teaching conference in June?
Yeah,
In
yeah.
the Central Hotel.
That's
Was
where I
that
saw
the
you.
one?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
can't remember your name.
My name was Lynn. What was your name again?
Craig.
Craig.
Good to
Did
see
you?
you again.
Yeah, it's nice. Did you enjoy that conference? I thought it was
I did. It
fantastic.
was wonderful, yeah, and the food was really good, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was. So what are you doing here?
I'm just waiting for a friend. We're going out to a restaurant, and if you want to, you can join us.
All right.
So,
Okay, that
yeah,
was very
that
successful.
was
I even got an invitation.
so you can probably notice that the intonation was more lively, it was more animated, and we
Mhm.
seemed more interested in what the other person says. And this is often from the up and down of your voice,
This
the intonation, the
stretching, I call
stretching.
this stretching. You have to stretch your voice in English, right? To sound interested. Should we,
Have you got any
what would you,
comments?
yeah? Uh, I think we've met before,
Paloma,
haven't
I'm fond of
we?
English meetings in bars.
No,
Oh
you
yeah,
did that one.
we've looked at Paloma's
Sorry,
comments.
Andrea has answered the question because we said, what would you say in answer to, I think we've met before, and Christine and
Yeah,
Andrea have given a response. So I believe I met you before. Did you study in the,
X
that's an
school.
excellent, great, Andrea.
Yep.
That's a great response.
And Andrea, as you were replying to that, then obviously your voice would go up when you asked the
Mhm,
question in the middle.
mhm.
So I believe I met you before. Did you it goes up really high. Did you study in the X school? Did you
Uh-huh,
study in the X school? So
uh-huh.
your voice going up then encourages the other person
The
to continue
conversation to
the
continue
conversation.
flowing. And then Christine has answered. Let me think. Maybe
Mhm.
at the X place. Are you studying at Valencian University?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. And then again with the stretch. Now, what another thing which is fantastic is that both Christine and Andrea have followed up their responses. They've
With
answered
another
the
question.
question,
Mhm.
but can you see that they've asked another question? Christine's asked, are you studying at the Valencian University? And Andrea said, did you study in the X school? Right. Now, this is the next step, isn't it, to the conversation, Craig, really?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. That's the
it's
follow-up question.
exactly. So the thing is, when you respond to the question, you've answered the question. But if you want the conversation to continue flowing, then you see, I've given something to Craig. I've been very courageous. I've gone up to him and I know he doesn't recognize me. I've tapped him on the shoulder and I said, I think we've met before, haven't we? Right. So I've been very brave. Right. Now, Craig has answered my question. But in order for me to feel comfortable and for him to show me that he's willing to engage in conversation, he has to say something else. One way is to ask a question, another question, and the other way is to make a statement, isn't it, Craig? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when
Yeah.
we were having the conversation, we said, me too. I really liked that. And you went, me too. Me
Hmm.
too. Uh-huh.
Let's maybe practice this again, because if I don't come back to Lynn and answer Lynn with another question,
Mm-hmm.
let's see how it goes if I just give a short statement. Ask me again,
Okay.
Lynn. Come up to me.
So
Come up to me in the bar again.
uh-huh. I think we've met before, haven't we?
I don't think we have. So then I'm throwing it back. Now Lynn has to say something because I haven't asked her a question. So
And
it's
right
more
at
difficult for her to break the ice.
exactly. And the way I'm feeling right now when he says,
I
what did
don't
you
think we
say?
have.
I
I
don't
don't
think
think
we
we have.
have. For
No.
me, I feel like he's just thrown a bucket of cold
Cold
water all
water.
over me. So I'm feeling absolutely terrible. Now, because I'm brave and I like talking to strangers, do it again and I'll give another go. But if you don't respond the second time, then the conversation's dead. So I think we've met before, haven't we?
Sorry, how do you want me to reply?
I want you to reply with no follow-up
Oh, no
question, just
follow-up
like the
question.
way you
Okay.
did before.
Okay,
But
let's
I'm
go
going to
again.
show them because I'm brave and I'm good at
Okay.
interacting with strangers. I'm going to have another go, right?
Okay.
So,
Take two.
all right, take two. I think we've met before, haven't we?
No, I don't think we have.
Your face seems really familiar.
Where do you think we met then?
I'm not really sure. Right. Now the conversation's died, hasn't
It's
it? A
dead.
death. It's
It's
dead
dead.
because he's
Yeah.
not showing interest. He asked me a question.
It's like, who is
I
this woman?
responded, and it's clear that we just want to go our separate ways. I'm going to disappear
Yeah.
now. Yeah. And that's the way that natural conversations also go. Yeah. I mean, that can happen. But if you notice that the person doesn't give a follow-up question, you can try with one more. But if they again don't give you much response, then the best way is just to end it and try somewhere
Yeah,
else.
exactly. And as Erasmo says, hi Erasmo. Erasmo says, as I learned recently, intonation shows interest, exactly, and
Uh-huh.
attention, or
And
not,
attention or
if the
not.
intonation is very
Mhm.
flat. Yeah.
Mhm.
Shall we do
Uh-huh.
one more conversation opener? But
As an intro, yeah.
before we do that, though, Lynn, I want to mention one thing because we've spoken about intonation, we've spoken about follow-up questions, keeping the
Mhm.
conversation moving forward by
Mhm.
asking questions. Another thing I think is really important, body language, because when you meet somebody for the first time, it's more important the feeling you get than the words you hear. So someone's asked you a question, but you're really subconsciously focusing, are they smiling? Are they making eye contact and looking at you? Is their body language open? So don't cross your arms like this and
Mhm.
close your body. Keep your hands open. If you
Mhm.
have open hands, and this is something from our reptile brain, our lizard brain, where we can see that there are no weapons. I haven't got a knife. I haven't got a sword or a stick. This goes back
Uh-huh.
years. If your hands are open, that's friendlier. And
Yeah.
even if your
Mhm.
eyebrows go up, that's also inviting people to
Mhm.
talk to you. So you really have, in the beginning, got to think about this, or at least make sure that your body language is positive
Mhm.
and not negative,
Mhm.
because it's really, it creates an impression that makes people want to engage with you and speak
Mhm.
with you.
And maybe if I can add as well, there is a difference because I know that many people here are Spanish speakers, so
And
Latin
Portuguese.
and Portuguese. And there is a difference. English people generally, I think, and this is to do with the distance with a stranger. Yeah. With a stranger, you can't be really, really close. It's too intimidating. And possibly in Spain, people, certainly in Spain, people feel a bit more comfortable with people. So, for example, in Valencia, where we live, if you meet a stranger, they give you 2 kisses, right? Now, that kind of space for
Before
British
COVID.
people, before COVID, yeah, that kind of space for British people is way too intrusive for a stranger, right? They don't feel comfortable. So if you go up to have a conversation with a stranger, just remember that most Anglo-Saxon, I think it's true for Americans too, Americans, Australians, New Zealand, Kiwis, Brits, yeah, they don't, I mean, it's not that they're going to be mortified if you hug them, but if it's a stranger, the correct distance, there is a certain distance. And if you're a Spanish speaker, it's probably a little step back from what you're used to.
I could
Yeah.
tell you a funny story. When I first started teaching here in Valencia, I'd been in Spain, in Valencia, maybe 1 month or 6 weeks, and I was teaching a B2 exam class in the British Council. And I don't think you remember, Lynn, when the British
Mm-hmm.
Council had a cafe
Oh,
in the
yes, I do.
building,
Yes. Uh-huh.
but in the
Mm-hmm.
old building,
In
there
the
was a
old
cafe.
building. Yes.
You
Uh-huh.
do
Mm-hmm.
remember?
Yeah, I do remember.
And in the break, one of my students came up to me, and he put his arm around me and he said, Craig, I didn't have time to do the homework this week. I'm really sorry. And I felt so uncomfortable because there is no way in the UK that somebody you've just met, especially a student, would come and put his
His
arm
arm
around
around you.
you and talk to you. For him, it was perfectly natural. And I
Uh-huh.
learned that with time. But the
Uh-huh.
distance, as Lynn is saying, is further the more north you go in Europe, in
Uh-huh.
Scandinavia, in the UK as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay. But definitely not this kind of body language, but like a bit more open. You can step back and you can move a little bit. And that makes you non-threatening. But if you stand really straight and you're too close, it's not really very attractive. Well, it's not very how can I say, conducive to sorry, it's not very conducive to the conversation.
Yeah.
And can I make one more?
Don't break her heart.
Pay attention, Andrea.
Pay attention.
What you want to say there is pay attention. Don't break my heart. Excellent advice, Andrea. Craig,
Yes.
listen.
And Erasmo says he agrees it's a cultural and psychological condition. Yeah, and it's very very, very cultural.
Very cultural.
And Nancy, we have to hear the other person. Yeah, in that way we show interest. We show interest. Yeah.
And the last thing I want to say as well, before we model one more, is that we mentioned that you can have a follow-up question, but you can also not have a question, because if you keep asking questions all the time, it can get a little bit sort of like an interrogation.
Like the FBI.
The FBI. So you don't want to keep asking questions all the time. So occasionally what you can do is just show a response to what somebody said. If you play this back, when we were doing our little acting before, I wasn't always asking questions. I was making statements. I was saying, "Oh, that conference was excellent. Yeah, I thought it was brilliant." And then Craig said, "Me too. Yeah, it was really good." Okay, so sometimes just sort of natural statements that show the way you respond. It's showing how you feel. So you say things like, "Really? Oh, wow." Or
Lovely.
"Me too. Oh, that was great. Oh, I didn't like that." Yeah. And then those kind of things also give more scope. They widen the conversation a little bit. Okay. Rather than just doing question, answer, question, answer.
Okay. Shall we move on to our second icebreaker?
Okay.
Again, how would you reply to that? You're in the streets. Somebody says to you in English, "Nice day, isn't it?" How would you reply to that? What would you say to get the conversation going? What would be your response?
Well, of course, if you respond, well, we're waiting for them to say, aren't we? I'm not answering. Sorry. That's why I'm a chatterbox. I'm always talking, you see.
let's give people a couple of minutes to say how they would respond. And remember, these kind of questions, like I think we've met before, or "Nice day, isn't it?" or "Do you come here often? Do you mind if I join you there?" Really, we're not interested in the weather so much. We're more interested in starting a conversation. So it's a question about the weather. The weather is a very neutral subject. And what we want to do is just start a conversation. We're not really interested in a stranger's opinion of the weather, are we? But it is a way to break the ice and get the conversation going. And then you move to maybe another topic.
And also, I'm just thinking, while we're waiting for some responses to this, I also think that, I don't know if you find this, Craig, but many of my students, because in English we have these question tags, like "Isn't it?" or "I've seen you before, haven't I?" Yeah, these question tags. Question tags don't always exist in other languages. There's a lot of, it's a very English thing. And I think many Spanish people, because they see a question tag written with a question mark, or non-native speakers, not just Spanish, you assume this is really a question. But a lot of the time, I mean, sometimes it can be a question. Right? Sometimes it can be a question. If it's going to be a question, the intonation at the end goes up, doesn't it, Craig? So we say, "Nice day, isn't it?" Because you want confirmation, right? That intonation is going up. But sometimes people say it more as a statement, don't they? "Nice day, isn't it?"
Nice day, isn't it?
Yeah. And that actually isn't a real question. What we're expecting in response to that is not really yes, no. The response that we want is ooh. Sometimes it's sounds, isn't it, really?
Yeah, and we're inviting the other person to engage with us and speak. So that's why
Exactly.
we make the question.
So
So
just
let's see
because
what.
you see a question mark and you hear a question tag, it doesn't always mean that you have to answer the question in depth. Sometimes it's enough to just go, and then say something else.
So Gemma says, absolutely, it's a marvelous day today. Yes.
Great. But
Excellent.
Hema, if you want the conversation to continue, you're going to have to add something. What would you add after that? Because otherwise the conversation will come to an end. Craig, you and I do that. You start and I'll use him as answer.
Okay.
Nice day, isn't it? You say it?
Nice day, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's a marvelous day today.
Hmm.
And then can you see Craig's got nothing to continue?
I've got nothing. Where can I go? Where can I go from there?
Okay, so come on, everybody, help Hima. Hima might have an idea. How can you extend that?
We've got another possibility from Eduardo, who's obviously living in the UK.
All right, so we'll do that one. Nice day, isn't it?
Are you kidding me? Today's a miserable day. It's been raining for 3 days in a row.
Oh, come off it. You sound so negative.
Well, I forgot my umbrella. I left my umbrella on the train.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So that could work. Well done, Eduardo, because it's such a negative statement. I can't just stop the conversation, can I? Because I've got to say something to make him feel better.
Say what? If you say so, Eduardo. If you say so. And we've got a reply from Nancy. Yeah, you're right. Beautiful day to go outside. Again, like Gemma, Nancy, you need something more to keep the conversation moving.
Yeah.
Maybe
Although
are you going to the beach? Or
or you could say what you're doing. You could say, yeah, beautiful day to go outside.
I'm just going for a swim or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. Hima's brought a follow-up there, or she's added something more, if you can see. She said, it's a marvelous day today here in Madrid. And that's good because you give me the information Madrid, then I can add something to that. Yeah. And I can say, yeah, my friend in Valencia said it's been raining all week. Do you see?
Yeah.
So Hima's given me a little bit more, and then I have something that I can latch on to. But if Hema just answers the question and says it's a marvelous day today, and I can see that it's a marvelous day, then I've got what do I say? You see? So that's great, Hema, that you found that. And it's nice what Andrea said before.
It is. I just want to have more sunny days in a week. I just want to have more sunny days
in a week.
In a week.
Don't you?
Don't you? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I can put up with one bad day, but 5 in a row, my God, it's made me so depressed. Okay, so you're giving the other person, you're giving the other person an opportunity to engage.
And Christine's made a point that crossed my mind when we were speaking about tag questions earlier, that, of course, in Spain, you do have very simple tag questions. In English, they're a lot more complicated. I'm sure you know that, Christine. But in Spanish, bonito dia, no? And then the intonation would probably go up because you're looking for confirmation. Or verdad? Yeah,
Exactly. They're more complicated in English because, of course, you have to make the tag with the same tense. That was the error earlier that, who was it who had... Andrea made. Andrea, you said, I just want to have more sunny days in a week. You used the question tag, haven't you? But that wasn't the correct one. I want is present simple. So you have to use present simple question tag, which is don't you? And that is also tricky. I understand that for non-native speakers, of course, question tags are a minefield. And so, of course, especially because they come up in small talk, that causes an additional problem, doesn't it? I do see that. Yeah.
Maybe we'll look at question tags next time and go in a bit more deeply. Yeah, Gemma says that she's sparing with words at times. Yeah, but actually, Gemma, all you really need to start a conversation are a few questions, because people like to speak about themselves. So very often when I'm in a conversation, especially with a stranger or someone I don't know very well, I ask a lot of questions and occasionally give some personal information, because like Lynn said, you don't want to be like the FBI. Where do you live? Do you come here often? What are you doing later? What time is it? You don't want to keep firing questions. You want to mix in some personal information. But if you ask a lot of questions, people enjoy speaking about themselves, and then it will be easier. You don't need to speak a lot. You need to ask some effective questions.
Maybe just before we go on to the discussion, Craig, shall you and I just again to illustrate the different types of conversations and how they can go if you have a different intonation,
Especially with the intonation, because I want to hammer that home. I want people to go away from this remembering the intonation, how important it is.
So shall you and I, how about if we model one more conversation and we'll do it in two different ways, yeah? So one that works and one that doesn't work.
and interested.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Shall I start? Because
You
I'm the one
start.
who talks to strangers, aren't I?
You're the one who's breaking the ice.
Okay. Excuse me, do you mind if I join you?
No, help yourself.
Okay. Well, that was obviously the one that doesn't work, right? Okay. Right.
By the way, okay, so carry on.
Go ahead. Right.
No,
So
you carry on.
Okay. Right. So now second, like take two. Right. Excuse me, do you mind if I join you?
No, I don't mind at all. It's very busy in here, isn't it?
It is. Is that seat spare, the one that you've got next to you?
Yes, I'm eating by myself today. I'm waiting for my wife to come, but please have a seat. You're welcome.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. I'm just on my own, so there'll still be a seat for your wife when she gets here.
Yes, there's lots of room on this table.
Oh, that's great. Is the food good? I see you've already ordered.
Yeah, I had this yesterday. It's really, really good. What have you got there?
Well, I haven't ordered yet. The waiter brought me this starter. I suppose it's free. Is this one free that we just eat it?
Yeah, the first one's free. Yeah, and then you have to pay.
Do you come here often? Can you recommend anything on the menu?
Well, the chicken's really good.
I like that.
The chicken's excellent. So that's one of my favorite dishes, and the salad as well is really, really good.
All right, thanks. That's really nice. It's always good to know what to order. Waiter.
There's one thing I hope you could see there the difference in the interest, but there's one thing I must mention, because there is a big cultural difference, is that in the UK, it is quite common in a restaurant or a cafe, if it's completely busy and full, to ask to sit with people. Whereas in Spain, it's not very common, is it? Have you noticed that? No. Oh. You've done it, haven't you? Oh. You've asked. I thought you probably had. No, I'm sure our Spanish viewers will agree that it's not that common, even when there are no other tables. It's not that common to just ask if you can sit down with people you don't know. And in pubs in the UK, it's quite common.
Yeah.
If it's busy and there are no spare tables, say, "Excuse me, do you mind if I join you? There are no other seats." And then you can say, "Well, I'm waiting for someone," or "Please help, sit down, help yourself." But yeah, in Spain, it's not that common here. At least in my experience.
Well, nobody's ever said no.
Well, you're obviously too nice. They couldn't refuse you. Your intonation was perfect, and they couldn't say no.
Perfect. They couldn't say no.
Shall we do? Did we do this one? Do you come here often?
Oh, you want to do another one? Okay, then.
Should we do one
Go
more?
on, then. Yeah, you can start.
Okay. I'll start. Oh, hi. I'm Craig. Do you come here often?
Well, no. I think I've been here once before. Do you know this place?
Yeah, I come here every week. I really like it.
So somebody told me that the music here is really good.
Well, it depends. On a Wednesday, it's not really that good. The best night for live music is a Friday.
Okay. Oh, well, that's nice to know.
So that was obviously the positive one. I mean, that was quite a nice icebreaker. So we actually
Mm-hmm.
managed to have a short conversation. Let's try a negative one with
Mm-hmm.
flat intonation.
Mm-hmm.
Do you come here often?
I think it's the first time.
What do you think of it?
Well, I mean, I really don't know. Excuse me. I have to go to my friend over there.
Okay, bye. Yeah, wasn't very successful, was I?
No, the thing is, you feel uncomfortable, you know? And so if
Yeah.
you feel uncomfortable when the intonation's flat, I try to get away from the conversation. And ways to get away from the conversation are to say things like, no idea, sorry, or oh, I'm sorry, but I have to go and see my friend, mustache.
As Christine said, you were at a loss for words. And that is a
Yeah,
very well written question tag, Christine,
it is.
because the auxiliary verb is, and it's
Mm-hmm,
positive in the first part. So she is
mm-hmm.
at a
At
loss
a
for
loss for
words,
words.
isn't she? So it's
Isn't she?
positive,
Exactly.
negative. Well done.
Yeah.
And Eduardo says, I'm not sure if your, what was that? Wife is sharing a table with some unknown person.
So, right,
Well,
Eduardo, I have no problem with that. As soon as the wife comes, you'll see. I'll engage the wife in conversation, and eventually the guy leaves, and I've got a new friend.
yeah, there you go. And Christine agrees with me. It's not that common to
Okay.
join strangers in a bar or a cafe if you don't know
Cafe.
them. So
If you
yeah.
don't know them, well, I duly noted, Christine. Duly noted.
FYI for your
For your
information.
information.
Yeah,
Right. Now we had a couple of questions, didn't we, at the end
we
to
did.
talk about
What are we doing for time?
conversations?
We've got about 5 minutes,
10
so
minutes, 5, 10 minutes.
let's look at some questions.
Hmm.
Yeah, topics to avoid when starting conversations with
Hmm.
strangers. Obviously, the controversial topic. So obviously you've broken the ice and you've had the first sort of contact with someone. You've spoken about the weather, what time's the next bus, where can I buy, is there a supermarket near here? So you've started the conversation. Then you're not going to speak about politics, religion, or sex.
Yeah,
So
Erasmus just said avoid politics.
avoid
Andreas said
politics.
personal questions, religion.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So there are some safe topics that you can talk about when you first meet someone, and here are some ideas. Obviously, the weather. It's very common if you are a sporty person and you like sports to talk about latest sports news. There was
Hmm.
a big football match last week, so that's a very neutral topic. Maybe family, if you can see some young children around. Food, if you're in a place where people are having food, as Lynn
Hmm.
said in the conversation before, speaking about the best thing to order. Work is quite neutral. Talk about work, travel. If you are traveling, obviously you speak about the hotel, etc. How to move around the city. Famous celebrities, always popular. Any gossip that's in the news.
Hmm.
Any hobbies you might have. And then, so here are some ideas of things you could talk about, and then you would ask questions around these
Hmm.
topics.
And also, I think also sometimes it's not a topic. Sometimes if you just see something, you know, and you comment on what you're seeing, like the way that we said with the weather, you comment because it's particularly hot. Or you might be in a bar and there might be a television up there and you might see something on the news and you might just want to share what you think, as long as it's not too controversial, of course, with something. You make a comment about that. That's a really great way to break the ice. Have you ever had a conversation where you've made a faux pas, Craig? And we
You
better
mean
write.
an annoyable or annoying conversation, you mean?
No, or have you ever tried to start a conversation and you've made a mistake? A faux pas comes from French, but we have it in the English. Can you put it in the chat file? Because we didn't have that before, did we? Could
Okay.
you write that in the chat file? And it means a wrong step. So you've made a big error because you've started the conversation wrongly. Have you ever
Uh,
made a faux pas in a
is that is that
conversation?
is that how
That's
you spell
right.
it?
Yeah, that's right.
Faux?
FAUX and then PAS. Have you ever made a faux
Um,
pas?
yeah, I met some. Well, not breaking the ice. I met someone who I worked with, who I hadn't seen for a long time, and I said, I didn't know you were pregnant, and she said, I'm
Oh
not.
God.
I've just
Put
put on
on
quite a
weight.
lot of weight.
That's a dreadful one.
Yeah, that's quite a faux pas. So
That was a big faux
I
pas.
never ever say congratulations when is the baby due, because you
No,
never
because it's
know
dangerous. You never know.
if
Mhm.
the lady has just been
Uh-huh.
through the lockdown and put on some weight.
Yeah, I remember when I was younger, and I had one of my first business dinners with other people, and I was young, and it was the first business dinner, and you're sitting opposite people that you didn't know, and you have to make small talk over dinner. And there was this older male manager who was in front of me, and I was like 23 or something like this. And we were sitting there, and everybody else seemed to know, and they were having conversations, and me and him were sitting opposite each other, and we didn't know what to say. And I think he was terrified because I was 23 and he was probably 50 something. And I was terrified because I'd never been at a business dinner before. But because I am naturally chatty, I felt it was my responsibility to start this
To break the
conversation,
ice. Yeah.
to break the ice. And I looked at him, and this was in Germany. And I looked at him, and he was very brown. And I said, "Oh, you're looking very tanned. Have you been on holiday?" And I thought, like, naively, that this would just be like a very, like, like a very sort of neutral topic. Because I mean, we couldn't talk about the weather because we were inside, and there was no
Yeah.
other visual stimulation. So I just said the first thing that came in. I said, "You're looking very brown. Have you been on holiday?" And he really was offended. He found it way too personal. So it was obviously like you when you said you're looking
And you're
particularly
pregnant.
pregnant. When's the
Yeah.
baby due? Those kind of comments after that experience, because the conversation just died a death, and I felt really embarrassed, and he was embarrassed, and I mean, even though he was
Yeah.
brown, he went red, and it was just wrong. And so after that, I learned my lesson that it's probably with a stranger you don't comment on their appearance or their appearance, or even with
Yeah.
somebody you know.
Exactly. Exactly. There's
Mhm,
one thing I want to mention, that it's a structure that I really like, which is quite neutral, and that's what's it like, or in the
mhm,
past, what was it like? Because you can use this and replace the it with anything. Um,
mhm,
Someone's just come from a flight from abroad. What was the flight like?
mhm,
Someone's come back from a holiday. What was the hotel like? What was the food like?
mhm,
In that situation with someone sitting opposite you in a restaurant, what's your soup like?
mhm.
What's it like? So asking that question, what's it like, which can be about anything,
Yeah. Mhm.
is a way to get the conversation flowing and
To
moving
get it
forward.
over. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Eva has put a lovely comment up there. Eva is Spanish. She lives in Wales. And she said that happened to me, Eva, when a guy sat down in a chair around her table. She got up and she left the
Oh
coffee
my
shop.
goodness.
Well, now you know, Eva, you don't
And
do that.
and
You
the man's gone,
engage in
Do
conversation.
I smell? Is there a strange smell here? Yeah, and Christine says it's a slip up in English. Or you can also say, Christine, a slip of the tongue.
Mhm.
A slip of the tongue means you say something which maybe causes offense
Uh-huh.
unintentionally, and maybe offends somebody, and
Mhm.
it's the wrong thing to say.
Mhm. But
Uh,
I think she was referring to faux pas, but it's very acceptable to say faux pas in English. It's part
yeah.
of English. It's in the English dictionary, faux pas, and it means a mistake. Yeah.
Is chit
Okay.
chat the same as small talk? It's
Yeah.
very similar, isn't it? It's an
Yeah.
informal conversation with no
Hmm.
particular, because conversations are very often transactional. Like we
Uh-huh.
might want something, or we're looking for confirmation or something of something. And chit chat and small talk, they're often there very often isn't an intention behind it. You're not trying to get something. You're not trying to do anything except maybe to develop a friendship or pass the time
It's
or satisfy your
maintenance. Uh-huh.
curiosity.
And it's maintenance. Chit chat is maintenance. That's what you do with your friends. You know, you chat, but you're not doing
Yeah.
rocket science. Yeah, there's nothing nothing groundbreaking in it. It's just passing the time of day is another expression we use, to pass the time of day.
Nancy says, when you ask someone about a relative, yeah,
Oh,
and they've passed away, it's embarrassing.
embarrassing.
It is embarrassing, and you are embarrassed
Mhm.
by the situation. Yeah, that's very. But if you don't know, it's an innocent mistake, and I think people
Yeah. Uh-huh.
understand. And some people ask me if I haven't seen them for a long time. They'll ask me about my parents. I say, well, they've
Mm.
passed away, and they feel really bad, but it's not. It's not anything that's done on purpose, so
Yeah. Uh-huh.
it's
That's right.
understandable.
I think so.
Well, I think we should leave it there, Lynn. What do you
I
think?
think we could talk all night, couldn't we? Because
Could
especially
chit
because
chat?
we're
Yeah,
we could chit chat here all night, but it's time to go and have dinner.
we could chit. We could chit chat for England. So let's say goodbye.
Okay, so goodbye, everybody. Thank you very much, because you've all been really, really active today and put lots of comments in the chat. That's lovely to see. And just if anybody is interested in having any online classes, my company is called putitlikethis.com, and you can find out information on my website about the kind of courses that I offer. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm Craig from mansioningles.com, a website that has lots of material for free, including courses and a bi-monthly newsletter that's delivered to your inbox. And at the moment, I'm in the middle of a conversation course, but I will be starting another conversation course in August. So if you want to study and have chit chat and speak and practice English
Yeah, practice what you've
in the
done
summer,
today. Uh-huh.
yeah,
Yeah.
then go over to englishmasterclass.net. You can write your name, your email address, and your name, and be on the waiting list. And I will contact you in July about that.
Hmm.
Okay.
And I hope you all have a good week. Go and talk to strangers.
Go out there and start
Safely, safely.
conversations.
Go and start conversations. Yeah. And we didn't mention it, but a great way, because there was a couple of people who said that in their areas they didn't have many native speakers. But if you are living in a city, try to find out about exchanges in bars or cafes, because especially in student cities or towns, often that's a very common thing now, isn't it, that they set up speaking exchanges. So that is one place where you might actually be able to come into contact with maybe English people who are studying in your country, and they do these kind of conversation exchanges. Irish pubs are also very good as well, aren't they, for pub quizzes and things like that?
Yes, and I've just put a website in the chat, meetup.com. Just type in your location where you are in the world, and then English practice or English conversation, and you will see this week and next week any language exchanges, meetups, pub quizzes, cafe chat.
Okay, great.
That's a
Uh-huh.
very good website to go to find people to speak to face to face in English all over the world.
All right then. Okay, so great. Good luck, guys.
Good luck. Keep speaking.
Remember to keep it stretched.
I'll see you next Wednesday with another mystery guest. Not my sister next week, an old friend who I hope will be joining me. And of course, Lynn will be back 2 weeks from now. So see you again soon.
Okay
Take
then.
care.
All right. Bye-bye.